What's going on, everyone? So we're back for another video, and I just had to do a video about Caped Crusader. You guys know I just had to. Caped Crusader came out, I want to say about a month ago now-ish. For those of you who don't know, I know a lot, we cover just regular cartoons on the channel, but I'm a big DC fan. I always have. I love Marvel, but DC has always kind of been my bread and butter in a way. I love DC, and Batman the Animated Series, which this show is supposed to be a spiritual successor of, is one of my favorite, not just superhero shows, it's one of my favorite, I think it's one of the best cartoons ever made, I think. And here we have Caped Crusader, which is, again, it's done by Bruce Timm, and, you know, it's got the same style, and it's about 10 episodes. What could go wrong? Well, we're going to jump into that here. My first biggest complaint, because I want to do an overall review and then maybe get into some of the smaller stuff I liked or didn't like. But overall, I wanted Batman the Animated Series again. And what I got was something Batman the Animated Series inspired, but it was missing something. And I was like, I couldn't pinpoint it. I was like, what's missing? They look just like they do in Batman the Animated Series. They move just like they do in Batman the Animated Series. They talk just like they do in Batman the Animated Series. What's missing? And I think the biggest loss ever since this show, well, maybe not ever since the show was greenlit, but I think the biggest loss is having Bruce Timm without Paul Dini. And because, look, I love Bruce Timm and I love his art style, and as a writer, he can be pretty good. But here, it's definitely a lot of Bruce just, I don't know. It's just a lot of it you could tell was missing something. It was missing that oomph that Batman the Animated Series had, and that oomph was Paul Dini. Now, again, for what they did, was decent. I enjoyed Hamish Linklater as Batman. I actually really enjoyed it at the beginning, and in fact, it's so funny. I remember saying this to myself, that, I really enjoyed his voice in the beginning, but I kind of didn't like it the later it went on. Then I started watching other people's reviews of this show, and they all had a similar opinion, that they enjoyed his Batman voice at the beginning, but it continued later on, or that it wasn't as good later on. I don't know, something of the sort, right? But we all kind of shared that opinion, me and the online reviewers. It was really, really good in the beginning. It just started, I don't really like his, I like his Bruce Wayne a lot, but I don't like how, his voice sounds like this. You ever, remember when Christian Bale's Batman became, a big thing, like The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and his Batman voice was, ever since then, ever since the Christian Bale Batman films, that has been everybody's Batman voice. When the reality of Batman and his voice is that when he's talking as Batman, especially when he's, at the cave, and he's in his Batman voice, and the only person he's talking to is Alfred, there's literally no reason for him to be hiding his voice. Why does he still talk to Alfred like this? It's weird. It doesn't sound like that's his real voice, which with Kevin Conroy, I can at least safely make that, because he went deeper for Batman as opposed to his Bruce Wayne, but they both felt like they sat in an area that felt natural. Like they were always, Kevin was always speaking that, or Bruce was always speaking that. Not necessarily with Hamish. Again, for what it was, it's not bad, and I think it definitely does fit this noir style they're going for 100%. But I think if they're really trying to make this a BTAS-inspired clone, they're going to have to do a lot more than get Bruce Timm. Because it's weird. This whole series, it seems like it's splitting in multiple different directions. They're trying to do like a 30s, 40s noir Batman, but at the same time, they're like also trying to use the same art style from Batman the Animated Series. And so it's like, it's got these conflicting things. It's like, I'm watching something that is in the exact style of Batman the Animated Series, but it's featuring things that would never be in Batman the Animated Series or never were. So when you watch it, you get a very conflicting view of the show, because you're like, oh, looks like Batman the Animated Series, but the writing is not there. Now, they did do some changes with the lore, such as a lot of the characters. Some I enjoyed, some I didn't. For example, one of the first ones, actually the first one we see, and it's the one everyone is talking about, is a female penguin, right? I had really high hopes for that, because, like, think about it. Taking who Penguin is as a character and making that type of a character as a woman, you could actually, like, come up with a ton of different cool things. Like, one of the cool things that I was thinking they might go is that she's almost got, like, a dual persona similar to Batman, right? Like, the Penguin is this huge a Gotham City, like, drug lord or kingpin, right? But nobody knows what the Penguin really looks like. The Penguin is simply just a, something to scare people in the streets. They see Penguin's goons, like, oh, it's Penguin, and nobody would know that it was actually a woman. And the woman would happen to own the Iceberg Lounge. Like, I thought that they were going to go like a whole, like, nobody would suspect the voluptuous woman is actually the Gotham underground, kingpin. Like, nobody would, but no, they literally were just like, Penguin, but now a woman, though. And it just didn't work that well. I mean, it worked, but it definitely felt completely uninspired, I'll say. Another one I wanted to talk about, I actually really enjoyed this show's take on Catwoman. I thought their take on Catwoman was so good. And Selena Kyle's, her housemaid, is hilarious. It is so funny, that character. Really, she should have been the star of the show. So good, so funny. But I really enjoyed Selena Kyle's character here. I really enjoyed Two-Face. Two-Face's storyline, and how they kind of make Harvey Dent kind of corrupt. And that's one of the corrupt cases, is the Catwoman case that happens here. But I did find that interesting, that they kind of made him a bit more corrupt. But I actually enjoyed this take. A lot of people didn't enjoy this take on Harvey Dent. I like that they made him a bit corrupt, but that's it. Like, a lot of people took Harvey Dent is a corrupt cop, and just kind of took that and ran with it. But if you actually sit down and watch the show, yeah, he's corrupt, but he still has a moral code. Like, he'll do some messed up stuff, so long as in his brain, in his own moral compass, it's not that bad. But there's a lot of moments in the show where Harvey Dent is like, look, I might be a bit crooked, he says, but I'm not crazy. He's like, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that, right? So that was Harvey Dent. Again, I quite enjoyed him. I quite enjoyed his character. They also had Clayface. I thought Clayface's design was really cool, and what they did with him. That episode was actually probably one of my favorite ones, because it was very old school horror movie. Then you have I don't remember because it was Firefly, but they named him something else, like Firebug or something like that. I didn't quite enjoy that episode very much. It just kind of seemed like deranged lunatic does deranged lunatic things, and not a very fun or creative way. So I didn't quite enjoy that character or that episode. Now, we're finally getting onto the Harley Quinn episode. Here's my thing. It's not that I don't like what they did with the character, but I will say this, and I actually really only even have this opinion because I heard it on somebody else's review, and I actually really agreed. So before I state this, let me state that it wasn't my opinion originally. But someone in their review was talking about how, because in the show, they race swapped Harley Quinn, and they made her of Asian ethnicity now, which is great. But someone mentioned that because now she's Asian, one thing that would have been really, really cool is, especially if she's from a specific Asian country like China or Japan, right? And because she's Harley Quinn, right? Like imagine if, say, for example, she was Japanese in this show. Well, what is a Harlequin in Japanese culture? What does that mean to Japanese culture? And what would that look like? That could have been cool, for an original take on Harley Quinn. I don't like that they like with a lot of characters. I don't like that they just were like, oh, they've got two alternate personas. Well, they're swapped now. I just felt like that's so lazy. It felt very lazy to me. Then there's that's the Harvey Dent episode. They did introduce a character who is popular in the comics, but he's semi-popular in the comics. Onomatopoeia. I actually liked his episode. I thought it was a pretty cool episode. It was mostly kind of like a gangster episode. Like kind of Batman just kind of going up against the gangs, which you don't see very often anymore. It's always Batman going up against someone who's way more powerful than he should really have a way to fight. But either way, that's that. Then they had a whole nother episode where there's some girl who's like stealing the energy from children, which I thought was a bit intense. Kind of reminded me of the Firebug episode, like how he just goes around and is torching buildings with people inside. Like this show got dark. Then there's another episode where Harvey Dent finally gets his face disfigured. I like how they really push the Two-Face thing, in the sense of like you can tell that he's still himself, but when he gets angry, he lashes out. He starts yelling and saying stuff he never would normally say, but it's making him say it. But we didn't really see it as like a dual persona just yet, so maybe they'll push more into that in the next season. And then the final episode, which was more of the Harvey Dent thing. I really did enjoy the end, how they kind of did the BTAS, like lightning behind him and he's standing on the ledge. Like, yeah, that's cool. Definitely an homage to BTAS. The biggest thing about the series is that it was a bit frustrating in the sense of like, it looked like Batman the Animated Series, but it felt like something different. And I think that was the biggest issue for a lot of people when they watched this. Because look at how it looks. When you go into this show, you can't help but think Batman the Animated Series. So when you're looking at something that's Batman the Animated Series, but you're hearing something that isn't, it's a very perplexing watch. So I give Batman Caped Crusader about maybe a 7 out of 10. I've been fluctuating. I want to say I went as low as like a 6. And I want to say I went as high as about a 7.5. I definitely don't think it's good enough for an 8. But definitely in the, I would say anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5. That's why I'm going to sit comfortably at a 7. But what do you guys think? I'm very curious. Y'all's comments. Leave them down there for me in the description box down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Thanks so much to Tamil Kent, Matt Harvey, Benny Hardson, King Ben, Atlia, Ryan Wilkins, Advanced Hell, Kame Senin, and Susan Simone for all becoming members. If you would also like to become a member, on my channel there exists multiple different tier levels, and you can pick out which one is best for you.